palace with bandits. People in Kebbi were not leaving all the rural areas and coming to only the urban areas to stay. People in Niger were not being kidnapped. So why do we need to? At any time we need to talk about the present issues of today. We go back to start to look for excuse for our failures of today. I only want to say, let us do the right thing. We're not blaming this government for what they are finding itself, but it is the government in power, and they should do the right thing. What are the right things? We take only one example. The governor of Kebbi said that somebody ordered troops out and people were kidnapped. Till today, nobody in Nigeria knows what happened, and no question has been asked. And we're sitting down here as a parliament, and we turn and we talk. Yet, somebody is responsible. If I'm the commander-in-chief, I will call the army commander in that place and the head of the army and say, if you don't get me the head of this person who withdrew the troops to put all these children in jeopardy, then you make an example of him. That is how a country is run. A country is not run on pacification. A country is run on confronting issues. I rest my case.
President Abaribe and Dickson, Bayelsa West, and I rise to make a brief contribution to this discussion on a very serious issue. Yesterday, you will recall, Mr. President, that out of concern, I raised this issue with you, and you said this motion was being considered. So I'm happy that the deputy leader has brought this. But let me observe, just as the way Senator Abaribe also touched on that briefly. Please, this is one of the most trying periods that our country is facing. Even in battle times, in war times, it's not easy to lose a brigadier general. It's not easy to lose a brigadier general. Even in battle times, it's not easy to see this mass of communities being displaced, harassed, taken hostage, and people killed in several parts of our country. Our democracy, right before our eyes, is being rubbished. Our country, right before our eyes, is losing prestige and respect, and is endangered by the day. So this is a very serious motion. And I want to briefly object to the way and manner some of the comments from the other side have been on this very serious issue. This is the Senate of the Federal Republic.
Sorry,
no,
please.
I'm coming. Let me make my views, please.
You will learn, but which other side? There is only There's only one side.
The mover of the motion. I'm coming. Before I say, please. The mover of the motion talked about.
This one, Senator Dickson.
But when we are here, please, let's not talk. all the prayers that
you have not noticed that your microphone is off. The reason is that your time is up.
Well, you are the deciding officer to determine if of this very serious national issue.
Can I guide you? Can I guide you? If you want to conclude your speech, be guided from the chair. The reality is that this affects all of us. So there's nothing like this side or that side. Immediately no. Well, the person watching you outside will think that the Senate is in two divisions. On the issue of insecurity that we are discussing, we are one side. The entire Senate is one. So there's nobody here that will come and say that this side is treating the issue with levity, this side. And if you say we should not commend the president, it simply means you should tell the president to sleep. When a man has canceled his international trips and stayed back to face the issue, what you are seeing is an attack on Nigeria by our enemies. And it's even as I'm speaking with you now, I understand that yesterday, in the same community or so, that they went there and then abducted a pregnant woman with the 11 others yesterday night. You don't know when it will come to your village. So there's nothing like this side and that side. We are all Nigerians, and we are all concerned with what is going on. So I would prefer that we concentrate on solutions. And what we are saying is that we must rise to the occasion. This country cannot bow to despair. Neither can we bow to fear. People are perpetrating this. They are human beings. Senator Garba, maybe you may wish to highlight what you saw on the video you showed me today. Please stand up and do that.
Thank you. And I represent Bauchi, Central of Bauchi State. Mr. President, this is not an interesting time in this country. And Mr. President, for those who follow social media, particularly the Senate Forum, when Onanuga, the president's spokesman, wrote that the president has canceled his trip to South Africa and Angola, I was the very first person to forward that to our forum, to our platform, and went ahead to say, this is the right thing and the proper thing, and therefore is commendable. I'm not an APC man. Mr. President, at times like this, moments like this, when you honestly see very clear design by some foreign powers to take over the affairs of this country, if you're a Nigerian, and a decent Nigerian, and a patriotic Nigerian, and you think that does not matter, I think you need to question your patriotism. You need to question your citizenship. Mr. President, at this point in time, what we require is a collective concern. This is not a military regime. This is a democratic regime where in the military you say the box stop on the table of the president. This is democracy. The box stop not only on the office, on the desk of the president, the box also stopped on the table of the Senate president at the head of legislature. Now, following from what Sani Musa said, you see parliamentarians, the affects lawmaking body in Nigeria is the Senate. And Mr. President, you see us asking ourselves, looking for possible answers. Mr. President, the standing committees were not created for ceremonies. The standing committees were created to answer some of the questions arising from what senators are asking. Mr. President, we cannot sit here and security questions were raised as to what happened in Kebbi. Why did it happen? Who are we asking? Don't you have Army Committee? Who are we asking? Don't you have Navy Committee? Who are we asking? Don't you have Defense Committee? Who are we asking? Don't you have Security Committee? Mr. President, it is abnormal. And for me to sit here and begin to see my colleagues raising questions that we are the ones to provide answers for. Mr. President, just one president, elected there and the vice president. We are all elected. We are all accountable to the people. Just like Mr. President is elected, we are also elected. And we are also accountable to our constituents. But Mr. President, we need to rejig how we do things. We need to tell ourselves the home truth. Mr. President, it's just like a mirror. You put a mirror in your front, you see yourself, breaking the mirror will not change that image. No matter how you do, what you see is what you get. What you are is what you get. Mr. President, we need to be proactive, and we need to come with a very clear perspective how to deal with these issues. Mr. President, you and me discussed yesterday that the widow of late Uba said nobody talked to her after her husband was gunned down. Nobody has communicated to her. Who are we going to ask? Are we going to tell the president to call commander-in-chief to ask? Or are we not having committee of the army here that will call the people? Look at this interview by Mrs. Uba, Musa Uba. What did you do and what did you not do? We learned from Governor of Kebbi State that officers were withdrawn. And we lament. Are we not having standing committees that are supposed to call these people? What did you do? And we keep passing the ball from Maradona to Pele. It is not going to work for us. Mr. President, just yesterday, 5 police officers, 3 of whom I know personally, were called broadly murdered in my constituency. What was the fault? They went to separate a fight between bandits and farmers. And these gentlemen were called broadly murdered. Mr. President, by your leave, I will have the honor to call the names of these officers. They were so brutally killed, not in the night. Not in the night. Broad day. They were summarily murdered because they were not carrying Spiro weapons. Only one of them was carrying AK-17. The other was carrying a Vision. AK-47. AK-47. Only one of them, the DSP. And the names of these officers, I will call their names. This is the reality of Nigeria. DSP Ahmed Mohammed, killed. Assistant Superintendent Mustafa Mohammed, killed. Inspector Amahil Yunusa, killed. Inspector Idris Ahmad, killed. Corporal Isa Muazu, killed. In my constituency, local government Darazo. Mr. President, you can imagine the agony that these families are undergoing. Mr. President, in the time past, we're having some of the best military formations, military officers. We're having some of the best police officers. and police formation all across the globe. In fact, at a particular time, Major General Agwai got an outstanding honor as one of the best serving generals in Africa. And today, Mr. President, did you ask yourself whether the Agwais and the Dambados of those years, and several, the Njumas, several of them that are still alive, whether anybody has called these officers to say, please, gentlemen, where did we miss it? Why were we the very best military country in Africa? Why were we the best police country in Africa? And why are we here? So it is a collective endeavor, Mr. President, and as long as we continue to see kidnapping as just a crime, we're not going anywhere, because kidnapping has so much been commercialized. People are leaving their jobs in cities and villages, and kidnapping now is one of the best paying jobs in Nigeria, all across. In fact, kidnapping now pays more than oil. Kidnapping pays more than sitting as a senator or sitting in the villa. And therefore, as lawmakers, what do we need to do? We now look at kidnapping and say we must amend our laws to say kidnapping is a terrorist act and must therefore be treated as such and must therefore carry the death penalty. And that is some of the ways we have to go. Mr. President, the entire security architecture of our country we need just to sit down. It is not about talking in plenary here. It is not talking about one committee or the other. We must be able to find out. It's not about just national security. Every committee that needs to answer his name must answer his name here in plenary or in an executive session. And therefore, going forward, most of the questions arising from our colleagues is not to the president, it's to ourselves. And therefore, the Senate Leader Office, with the understanding of the SP, must find a way in a situation like this, before we even peruse to the matter in details, we need to raise the chairman of committees to give us a synopsis of what they do, how they do it, and then following from that, then we can give our opinion, our recommendation, the way forward, the way this. But if every day we come here and we do some of these things that we only do it probably to appease our constituents, but the matter is not solved. Appeasing our constituency is just secondary. Getting peace is primary. People want to turn our country upside down, and we are looking at it as a joke, day in, day out. A parliamentarian in Congress will make a whole contingent of federal government go there. Member of Congress, that is an equal of number of house. One person.
Member of the subcommittee.
Did you elect Trump? Did you elect him? The answer is no. As they are doing, we must also do. We are here because people elected us. And we are not answerable to any member of Congress, and we should not. But we can partner. We can partner. If they want to hear from us, they should hear from us. If we want to hear from them, we can hear from them. I've been to the Congress 3 times. I've been to UK Parliament 3 times. All on equal pedestal. Therefore, we must know our honor, our dignity. People will think that we have no standing. We have standing. We are the largest country in Africa and the biggest black nation on the face of this, and therefore, leadership must be provided. Let's just look inwards. Let's put our acts together. And then we dare any outside power. But we have to put our acts together. Where the leadership comes begging, we must make it right. Where they need to be commended, we must commend them. The Nigerian people we must inspire them to believe what we are saying. Every day we talk like this, we talk like this. You go to the media, you go to the press, it's all talk. And that is true. But we need to change these things. Mr. President, I pray that in one of the prayers, we'll give a 1-minute silence on behalf of these murdered police officers. I so submit.
Senator Dube.
Actually commend my colleagues for showing deep concern and extensively discussing this very, very important motion. Section 14.2 of the Constitution is very clear. The purpose of government is security and welfare of its citizens. This problem of insecurity has bedeviled this country for a very long time. This chamber, that is the Senate, should not be lamenting. As you said, should be looking for solution and making appropriate recommendation. Fortunately, this president is responsible in terms of the issues of insecurity as he exhibited by canceling his trip to G20 in order to attend to this very serious problem. I want to really add on what the former Senate President said, Senator Ahmed Lawan, on the way forward. I have been the chairman of Committee on Army in the 9th Senate. And during his leadership, we had, I think, 4 submits on this issue of security. Unfortunately, it didn't solve the problem that time. Recommendations were made and efforts were also made. Distinguished colleagues, let us use this opportunity to give the president or the leadership the necessary support in order to address this very serious problem of insecurity that is expanding to a level where government will sit down and negotiate with criminals or bandits or terrorists. The Nigerian Armed Forces and other security agencies are putting in their best. So, I'm really not comfortable with blaming them. Nigerian Army, for example, is operating in almost 32 states as it is now. They are overstretched. They don't have the number. The whole of the Nigerian Army, up to now, are not up to 300,000. I'm the one. 177. Okay, it is the police that. So, the Nigerian Army is less than 200,000. Nigerian police, less than 400,000. In fact, our security agencies all put together, including civil defense, DSS, whatever we have, it's not up to 1 million. In Egypt, the total population of Egypt is about 100 million. They have 1 million police. They have 500 active armed forces. 500,000. And they have 800,000 reserve. That is Egypt with 100 million. Okay. And distinguished colleagues, in every family in Egypt, if you have an adult that is up to 18 years or above. One of them must be in one of the security services. That is part of their rule. So, the solution is what I have been talking since I was the chairman of Army. There are 4 things that need to be done urgently on a short-term, medium-term, and long-term basis. Number 1 is training. Our armed forces and other security agencies are not well trained for the challenges that we are facing now. The Nigerian army is trained to fight an enemy that is identifiable. But this time around, they are fighting an unknown enemy. That's why you hear they say unknown gunmen, because the gunman is not known. We have to train them adequately. Secondly, and this is also very, very important, is equipment for the armed forces. Mr. President, as I am speaking to you now, the Army aviation sector, which was strengthened by the current president, the coming of Mr. President changed the dynamics. But he is handicapped. Right now, the Nigerian Army aviation has only 2 helicopters. They ordered for 12.
No, I don't want us to go into details of trying to itemize what they have and what they don't have. Because the security chiefs will still appear before us. Let them come and tell us what they have and what they don't have, and then tell us what they need in a closed session. In a closed session, then we'll take it from there.
Well,
so let me thank you for your contribution.
No, let me land.
Point of order.
Please.
Okay.
This is very, very important.
Yeah,
I said it before.
Mangu, Pangshin, Kanke, and Kanam. And there is no way this issue is discussed. And people like my constituents that has been in this, that will not contribute 1 or 2 sentences to the feelings, positions, and situations that our people are facing, sir. Also, for the fact that I am a victim, that 3 times kidnappers have been in my village and even killed my junior brother. Sir, I want us to watch at the sources of strength of the bandits. The sources of strength of the bandits, to me, kidnapping is one of the sources of fundraising for bandits. Because all the monies they normally get from kidnapping is to finance or buy weapons to come back as bandits. Then, sir, we are concerned about buying equipment. As much as we have equipment, and a large number of our youths are unemployed, they will be the one that will ridicule the usage of the equipment. But if we sweep numerous numbers of the youths and get them engaged, employed as police, sir, the ratio of Nigeria to civilian ratio is 1 to 700. 1 policeman to 700 people. Most of our villages are empty. There is nobody around for you to really feel secured. We're thinking of a vigilante. The vigilantes, at the end of the day, they remain like beggars. Because they don't have salaries, they don't have source of funding. If we will rely on vigilante and not paid pensionable security, we will not get the solution, sir. My wish is that in as much as we are going to spend on equipment, we must sweep our youths and engage them as security. It will take away those that will volunteer to do this job. I believe that unemployment is another critical part. I believe also that kidnapping is another way of raising funds for bandits. I want to, as a representative of Plateau Central, I want to thank the president for one thing, sir. This is the first time that when we are affected by these ruthless bandits, this is the first time that we see government presence condoling with us. We lost a first-class chief some times ago. Nobody came. Up to date, we have traditional rulers that are kidnapped. Nobody comes around. But this time, this session of this regime, we have received sufficient empathy. I believe that if government will have empathy on victims, it will help to create hope in the minds of our people. I thank you.
I am Issa Jibrin, representing the very good people of Kogi East. Your Excellency, I have listened attentively to the comments by my colleagues, and I appreciate them all. But I want to dwell briefly on the issue of confidentiality of the plans and strategies by the military. The military should be silent on their plans and strategies. What is happening between the bandits and the military is akin to games theory. In a games theory, the parties involved want to outdo the other. And the easiest way they can outdo you is to know your secret. I want to believe that there is a need for the military to be as silent as possible on their strategies and plans. Mr. President, I will give you an example. A few days ago, we were made to understand that some of the forests that are hiding, that where these criminals are hiding, are going to be cordoned off. And the implication of that is that they will strategize. All we should have done is to go into the implementation without making the pronouncement in the public domain. Your Excellency, on this note, I want to appeal to the Chief of Defense Staff, the service chiefs, to be as silent as possible on their strategies. All we want is actions. I thank you.
What is right now happening in Zaria? Today is 26.
Yeah.
A commercial trailer passing through Zaria around Ahmadu Bello University, loaded with bullets, on his way to supply to the bandits. For one reason or the other, there is along Zaria Sokoto highway. Today, now,
the bullet was dropping.
the bullets were dropping and on the road. The driver did not know. And was still going, and the bullets were dropping. I hope he has been apprehended. Yeah. So I use this opportunity to call on the Commissioner of Police in Kaduna State to quickly send a team to go and escort the trailer loaded with bullets. Bullets are dropping on the road. The people are crying. I think we should stop further discussion on this matter and go into the prayers, because there is a lot of work to be done. So, there's no need to, whatever you are going to say, Senator Plank, these bullets that are dropping on the ground, we need to make a resolution on this now, before the bullets find their way into the hands of the bandits. Are you going to say that the bullets should not be? Okay, just say something now, because I don't want anybody to feel that he was shot out. Let's just use 30 seconds and say what you want to say, because these issues are too serious, and security really should not be discussed in the open like this.
Yes, sir.
But because of the peculiar circumstance that we have found ourselves. Look at, it's here.
Yes, sir. President of the Senate.
Get the IG and send it to him, and then let him.
President of the Senate, my distinguished.
Important motion. My name is
Asuko Ekpenyong, Senator representing Cross River South. Mr. President, before I go into the substantive part of this motion, I would like to state here, for the avoidance of doubt and for clarity, that from what I have gathered in this chamber today, what I have canvassed from all senators here, this Senate is one and is one-sided on this issue of insecurity. All 109 members of this Senate are on the same side, irrespective of tribe, religion, ethnicity, party, state of origin. And this Senate is committed to resolving this insecurity that has plagued this nation for over a decade. Mr. President, on to the substantive matter, the motion from Senator Ashiru. He mentioned various things during his motion, but three things stood out. One was when he selected or pointed out the local vigilante to commend them. Distinguished colleagues, security enforcement is most partly about intelligence gathering. Gathering of intelligence, analysis of intelligence, and disseminating this very intelligence. The local vigilantes are the grassroots. They live amongst the people, they dwell amongst the people. They live in rural areas and in forest communities, hunters, etc., farmers. We must find a way to integrate these local vigilantes into our security operations for communication and for effective networking. Number two, Your Excellency and distinguished colleagues, this has been addressed, but I feel it is extremely important and cannot be addressed enough. We as the Senate must identify and communicate to the people that elected us to be their voice. That part of the report that states that military personnel were withdrawn from that school in Kebbi. We must identify who gave the command and why, and that must be made public to the Nigerian people. Finally, and also as important, just like the last speaker mentioned, there is need, as Senator Ashiru alluded to review the Nigerian firearm law. We must get back to our people who elected us to represent them and find out their feelings on this. Distinguished colleagues, every man deserves the right to protect and defend his life and that of his family. And bringing a knife to a gunfight can never be a fair fight. We must discuss this, we must get back to our people. Mr. President, these are the three observations I would like to lay here. I rest my case. Thank you, sir.
Senator Isaac.
Because when you invited Senator Abaribe to speak, you went on to reinforce the sentiments expressed by Senator Abaribe. Abaribe is not of APC. And so any attempt by anyone to distract us from what is obviously a national issue is a disservice to our collective desire to stand firm together and find a solution to what is clearly a national problem that has been there for over 20 years. Mr. President, I am not ashamed to affirm that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is doing his best.
Correct.
He's doing his best. That we have not yet there doesn't mean that he has done anything knowingly, whether by negligence or lack of interest. Under your leadership, Mr. President, you have encouraged us to approve not once, not twice, special supplementary budget to support our armed forces, arising from the request of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Those requests were not meant for the armed forces to buy ice cream. It wasn't meant for them to do tobola in military nightclubs. They are meant to strengthen the armed forces, to re-equip them, to give them access to acquire modern technology, and to train, and even now, directive to recruit more men and women into the armed forces. Therefore, there can be no question that President Tinubu is doing his best. In moments like this, the devil can come in and make us so confused that we might turn against ourselves and then by default allow the enemy to behave as if he's happy at an upper hand. However, what I think we should do, which under your leadership, even in your statement, you have already encouraged us to come up with such suggestion, is in the light of what we now know, what can we begin to do differently and contribute those ideas to support the executive initiative? What there, for example, is, and you amplified it, even in greater details than any one of us in this house, when you revisited the statement by the governor of Kebbi State. Nigerians are entitled to know, and it is no longer national secret, the commander of that area who ordered that those men be withdrawn. It is to be a national secret to be kept within military cycle. Nigeria should know the name, and the person should be brought to justice under the Terrorist Act. Number two, Mr. President.
Is it the view of the Senate that the issue you just canvassed now, that should form part of our prayers? Yes. Those who support say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. That is taken. Yeah. We will form part of our prayers.
Mr.
Yes,
President, under your leadership, we have passed laws that impose death penalty on terrorism. This parliament is on record as having done that. Mr. President, I am troubled when, after all the efforts that security agencies and the prosecuting authorities have to invest to secure conviction, because unfortunately the state cannot behave like a mob. So you have to prosecute, follow due process. I am troubled by the conflicting judgment by various high court judges, where the law says act of terrorism, if convicted, shall attract death penalty. No judge has a right to pronounce less than that. It is only when you have implemented the law, interpret the law, not the sentiment of a judge, the will of the people as conveyed in a law, then the president can decide if there are reasons for him to do so, whether to commute or to reduce. How can an offense that carry death penalty, a judge reduce it to 20 years in prison? That is not acceptable. But he has violated the laws passed by the parliament. Number three, sir, and this will be the last.
Has that happened in Nigeria already?
It has.
That
somebody convicted of terrorism was sentenced to 20 years in prison.
No.
Pardon?
No.
What was it?
No, not saying no. Not saying no.
Can I be allowed to land?
The civil senator, you have,
Mr. President, that is the leader of Assad. They have a group.
You have 30 seconds.
A terrorist group called Assad.
You have 30 seconds to land, but please be guided.
Okay.
Let's concentrate on the issue in discussion.
I will be guided, because we have to look at a holistic solution. Because these are sentiments that confuses our people. For example, somebody allegedly kills someone who came to attack him on his farm. And because he killed in self-defense, the man was sentenced to death. But there is no evidence that those who have come to attack farmers and kill farmers, there is no evidence that they have been so convicted, sentenced to death. These are some of the issues we have to deal with, so that nobody is given any excuse to misunderstand what is clearly a national challenge. I believe that President Tinubu inherited a situation that was already so complicated that no one of us, if we were to become president, can decree insecurity out of existence overnight. But we can begin to mobilize discernible action we can begin to re-examine some of the discontent, but also call on the security chiefs. I am sure my colleagues here, you listen. When the chief of defense staff said there is what they call war economy. That is to say, there are officers who may well be making money from this crisis. And that is why the issue of accountability, even on the part of the armed forces, is now a requirement that our relevant committees should be able to work on and ensure that we do not have saboteurs in the army or those who don't want the crisis to end, such that, we keep appropriating money, people are getting richer, and more Nigerians are being wasted. But I conclude by saying, all of us must commend the president for what he has been doing. If you see his face on television, you know that the president is not sleeping. What we need is our collective wisdom to reinforce his own limited wisdom, because nobody has monopoly of wisdom, so that together we can find a holistic solution. This situation calls for national unity. It calls for collaboration. We must not talk as Christians or as Muslims. We must not talk as Northerners or Southerners, Easterners or Westerners. It's a national challenge, and we need a national solution. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. And
distinguished colleagues, my name remains Abamoro. Mr. President, I want to thank my colleague, Deputy Leader of the Senate, for bringing up this motion, which I think very timely and very apt. And Mr. President, it is a little scary here that one community after the other, or one state after the other, continues to come under the hammer of bandits. Mr. President, if you look at what we have here, the narratives and the prayers, they appear to be recurring decimal. It has always been calling on security agencies to intervene and to prevent. But as has been noted, Mr. President, we've discovered time without number that our security agencies and agents react to these situations, attempt to rescue abducted victims, and sometimes you never hear anything again until another abduction occurs, and then we begin to hear stories of efforts to rescue them, sometimes bordering on negotiated ransoms and the rest of them. Mr. President, some of these tactics are becoming increasingly obviously counterproductive, because it would appear as if perceived or real payment of ransom embolden these bandits to continue in their exploits. And so, Mr. President, I think that the time has come, like the leader has said, for this country to develop a comprehensive security policy that seeks to prevent these acts of banditry and kidnapping, rather than reacting to situations where our people and communities have been affected. Mr. President, like I said, here it is Kwara, it is Kebbi, it is Niger States. But of course, we will not forget in a hurry the historic outcry at the killing of over 200 citizens of Yelwata in Benue State. We will not forget in a hurry also, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the killings in Okwamaju in Otukpo local government, Umogidi in Otukpo local government, Ikobi and Ubobi in Apa local government, and of course, Ojantele and other communities of Apa and Agatu local government. So, Mr. President, I think that the time has come when we must sit down together to realistically review our tactics in view of the increasing wave of banditry and kidnapping in this country. And I'm happy to note that it couldn't have come at a better time that the National Assembly, the 10th Senate, for instance, has initiated an ad hoc committee to comprehensively review the security situations across the country with a view to collecting information and ideas from Nigerians as to what specific problems, unique problems that communities have across the country, and of course, to come up with a comprehensive recommendation that will inform a comprehensive and of course an effective national policy on security. And so, Mr. President, while we are doing this, I think remedial actions must be taken by our security agencies to at least redirect the narrative of this insecurity across the country to save the lives and the property of Nigerians. Thank you, Mr. President. I so submit.
My name is Mohamed Tahir Monguno. I represent
Please just,
Borno North.
so many people want to talk, so we just limit it to one minute. All right.
Okay. I represent Borno North Senatorial District. Mr. President, first and foremost, I wish to associate myself with the submissions made by the previous speakers, especially the one that commends Mr. President for acting swiftly that led to the immediate recovery of the kidnapped Nigerians, as opposed to the protracted and lingering approach when the ugly scenario of the kidnapping of Chibok school girls occurred that led to the fact that up to now, some of the Chibok school girls were not recovered. Mr. President needs to be commended for acting swiftly that brought about the immediate recovery of these kidnapped Nigerians. Then, Mr. President, I equally wish to commend Mr. President for ordering the withdrawal of police escort attached to BIFs. Mr. President, I also have 4 policemen attached to me in my house. Mr. President, as it is now, majority of our policemen are attached to BIPs, thereby depriving the Nigerian police of performing their main role of policing the country. So this order by Mr. President will go a long way in freeing the police to perform one of their primary constitutional functions of policing the country. Because as it is now, even the ratio that is recommended for policing by the United Nations, we cannot meet it. Then the second one is to call upon, maybe when it comes to the prayer, I will add an additional prayer for more recruitment into the Nigerian police force, in addition to the withdrawal. Because security is a primacy of governance. The social contract that the people had with the government is for the people to surrender their sovereignty to government and in return expect that their lives and property will be protected. So that is the primacy of governance. And if we can debate this issue of security for the whole day, we are doing the right thing, because that is the essence of governance. Thank you.
Thank you for cutting it short. Distinguished Senator Wamako.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Aliyu M. Wamako remains my name, Sotonos. Mr. President, I would like to second this motion moved by Senator Ashuru in entirety, including the praise therein. Friend, this motion cannot come at a better time than now. With challenges left and right on both divides of this nation, I think the motion is more timely and therefore deserves to be endorsed by all assembly. Mr. President, the memo has beautifully captured all the problems and challenges. But Mr. President, we are never short of such beautiful write-ups. What is required most is, Mr. President, what action or actions are we taking to address these challenges in our country? Mr. President, instead of rescuing the abducted, why can't we be capturing the bandits and their team leaders and so on and so on? I think that should be what we should be after, not merely rescuing the abducted. It's a country, it's a nation. Mr. President, instead of repelling, we should be pursuing this bandit in their hideout whereby they are and get them, bring them to order. Mr. President, we have heard so much on this narrative all over this in the 8th, 9th, and in the 10th Senate now. It is time now to act. We have spoken enough. We have said enough. And the nation has been watching us as their representatives. What are we going to do next? I'm glad in the prayer number 10, he asked for a special committee to review and advise the Senate, but the time given to us is too short. Mr. President, let it be 4 weeks with this committee to report back to the Senate what can be better done. Mr. President, I happen to be one of the security committees in the 9th Senate, and I can see the gadget available in most of the senior security heads. They can watch in the offices the comfort of all the forests in this country. What is missing then? Why can't we make effort to take this forest one by one and come and get them finished, that the nation can have peace? Mr. President, I very much believe
as ably presented by Senator Ashiru Oyolola Yisa, Deputy Leader of the Senate. Mr. President, we can clearly observe that the rate of kidnappings and banditry activities increased all over the country just after President Trump made a statement about the possibility of the United States.
President who?
President Trump of the United States. Of the United States.
Yes.
Made a statement showing his intention, the intention of his country to intervene militarily because of...
Tell Senator Mustafa not to interrupt you.
I'm protected.
He said, I'm not looking at that side. I'm seeing everywhere. I only wanted you to clarify who was Trump. So anybody can bear Trump.
Okay.
And you can even be a president of a tennis club. So that's why I said president what?
Yeah.
And which country, and then you clarified.
Exactly. So since he made that statement, showing the possibility of the United States to intervene militarily here in order to deal with the perceived notion that there's a genocide of Christians in Nigeria. Since then, the spate of these terrorist activities have increased in this country, which shows that those who are into this heinous crime do not love our country. They don't love our country. So they want to propel that intention of the United States, but they shall never succeed. Mr. President, we are facing challenges as a nation. We have faced several challenges before now. Before now, of course, it was the issue of armed robbery. Armed robbery everywhere in this country. But we're able to deal with that problem. And we shall also, by the grace of God, deal with this problem where we no longer hear about these heinous crimes being, committed on our land. Before now, it was difficult for you to travel along our road networks without being attacked by armed robbers. But we're able to deal with this problem when the deployment of technology came in, and then we had a cashless policy in line with international best practices. That has stopped. Not even that. recently we're faced with COVID-19. We're able to deal with the problem. The United States, that is best put in place in terms of military power in the whole world, had a similar problem where it was attacked by terrorists. Thousands were killed. But they were able to deal with their problem within the United States and even had assistance from all over the world. They were assisted. Now, what do we do in this situation? What we need to do in this situation is to look inwards and try to deal with our problem. This problem is surmountable, and we shall surmount the problem by the collective zeal of the Nigerian people. How do we do this? Bring in the efforts of everyone. The issue of security is a security for all. It's something that is for all of us. It doesn't reside on the shoulders of the federal government alone, nor the state governments, nor the local governments. Everybody has to come together. We need to come together by way of making sure that, now, as we speak, the state governments are having a wonderful time making more money, right? Also the local governments. So we need to come together, harness what is necessary, what is important for us to achieve our aim of eliminating this issue of insecurity, so that, for instance, every state of the Federation, because these problems, the route used by the terrorists are interconnected from one state to the other. So if for instance, we decide to deal with the problem in one state alone, that will not produce the necessary result. So all the states must be doing the same thing at the right time, at the same time. Deploy technology by way of making sure, because everybody knows that by the time you have surveillance, drones and what have you, you'll be able to see these people that move in convoy. They move in convoy to commit these atrocities. So we should deploy technology and have our men trained, because the military is doing its best. We know they are doing their best, but we need to come together and help them. So every state should be able to secure its own area by way of collaborating with the military, with all the security agencies. We should be able to do that all over the country. And when we're able to do that, I think we can find a solution to this problem. Leaving the matter alone for federal government will not work. As I said earlier, the United States, when it got into problem, everybody came on board. Even, foreign countries came to assist the United States. That was the United States for you, but the number one military power in the world. So we should also seek assistance from overseas, from our partners, from our allies, so that we can put our efforts together and deal with this problem. It's surmountable. Mr. President, we need to begin now. We need to touch all those, in fact, even, business corporations, high net worth individuals. I'll give an example, Mr. President. In the 9th Senate, I was approached by the DG of a security agency. I will not name that agency. He told me there was the need for them to have a surveillance of a city, a very, very key city in this country. I will not name the city for security concern. And he said they submitted their budget, but they could not have funding for that project because of a positive funds. That he felt, instead of going to Mr. President, I should see how I can assist. I said, well, no problem. How much do you need? He told me the amount. I said, we cannot provide all what you need in 1 year. He said, yeah, it's okay, because this project is a big one, it should be phased. So I provided money for the project for year 1, year 2, and year 3, and the project was concluded. Now in that city, wherever you go, whatever you do, you are safe. Even if you are related on the street, they watch you, they know what you are doing. So I did that. So by the time you touch all the state governments, they can also do this kind of arrangement in their states, with collaboration of the security agencies, the military, and so on and so forth. So it should be a collective effort. If you deal with the problem here and you don't deal with the other side, they will run from one end to the other. So, Mr. President, it's something that is doable. We should do it so that we can secure our country. I say so, Mr. President.
President, and very distinguished senators of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Mr. President, there comes a time in the life of every nation, organization, or individual when you come to a decision that first you recognize that this is a turning point, and two, that it must not be business as usual. Mr. President, the events of the last 2 weeks in our country with respect to insecurity have further shown that on both sides, something needs to be done. On the side of government, we have seen increased efforts at trying to combat these insecurity challenges headlong, while on the part of the Nigerian people, we have also seen concerned positions. We have seen frustration. We have seen well-founded fear that unless something is done urgently, we may be losing it as a nation. Yet we must not. Mr. President, as a parliament, we are not unaware of the efforts of the federal government in moving so swiftly to secure the lives of those who were kidnapped. In fact, we have witnessed an unusual situation at the level of recovery. While those were happening, we're also being told of different narratives. But what is important is that a lot of people kidnapped, at least from Kwara through Kebbi to Niger, a lot of them have regained their freedom. At what cost is what a lot of Nigerians are wondering. Some Nigerians have said government negotiated to get them out. Those are facts that only the people in charge of our security can be able to confirm. But one thing that we have also witnessed and recognized an official position of government is that government has not been paying ransom. What is good news about this, that no one can run away from, is the fact that these people regain their freedom without a life being lost. However, while Nigerians are celebrating the fact that no life was lost on the side of those who were kept in captivity and who regained their freedom, Nigerians are not smiling at the fact that they did not read or hear about lives being lost on the part of those who took them into captivity. In other words, some Nigerians have argued, show us that a bullet was shot to regain this freedom. But we are not insisting on one style or approach. Government has always said, and it is said all over the world, that you combine both kinetic and non-kinetic approaches to address this issue. But what is important today is the fact that we are not dealing with a conventional war situation. As of 2015, we had these terrorists posting their banners in more than a few local government areas in our country, including the local government of the distinguished Chief Whip, Senator Mongono in Borno State. But today, it is also an achievement on the part of government that no territory in our country is under the custody or leadership or control of these terrorists. However, it does not mean that the war has ended. What we have witnessed is a shift in strategy and style. There is no army anywhere today as a standing army to be confronted by our military, positioned at one place or hoisting their flag anywhere. But they have gone underground and they are operating as cells. So what this means is that because it's no longer a conventional warfare, there's also the need for us to continue to adopt styles that will make it easier for our military to engage, these people. And I also want to appeal to our colleagues in the parliament, both at the federal level and at the state level, that this is not the time to grandstand. It's about security of lives and property. I witnessed some of the debate by some of our colleagues on the floor of the House of Representatives yesterday. And one of them was specifically calling on this National Assembly to shut down. As far as I'm concerned, a call for the National Assembly to shut itself down because of this insecurity situation is a call for abdication of our constitutional roles. We're part of this government, and we did not start this problem. Both the executive arm and the legislative arm of government, as it is, inherited this insecurity problem. But that must not be an excuse. We must deal with the problem, and I'm happy all hands are on deck in both the executive and the legislative arm. This Senate set up an ad hoc committee on National Security Summit, partly to address some of these issues. But today, the motion raised by the deputy leader in some of the prayers also raised certain issues. Some of the issues raised will require specific investigation. Part of my own suggestion, Mr. President, will be by the time all our colleagues would have contributed and we are taking our decisions, let us engage all our committees, security-related committees, the Senate Committee on Defense, on Army, on Air Force, and on national security, even interior, and special duties, should come together and conduct a joint investigation into some of the issues raised in this motion. What happened in Kebbi? Was it true that soldiers were withdrawn